stock couldn't be any higher, here's a guy that goes out and puts on an absolute show in the College All-Star game, being named the game's MVP. Several GMs I spoke to cite that performance as the reason many draft experts, including Matt Miller, labeled him as the clear-cut #1 quarterback in this year's draft. He's never backed down from a challenge, and I can only imagine he's chomping at the bit to meet with the coaching staff as soon as possible to begin his NFL journey.
The Colts are now on the clock. The Chargers are now on the clock.
Shefty now at the inside scoop on the pick of Pickett.
Every year, there are a number of players who shine in the All-Star game getting attention around the league. And this year, he was one of those stars. He blew up in the College All-Star game, finishing with multiple sacks and a forced fumble. The one word Matt Miller gave me to describe his play was relentless. He was on top and on the attack all game long, and he never seemed to tire from it. They tried rotating fresh offensive linemen in to stop him, but each one failed to slow him down. Now that he's on a team, he'll just have to wait and see if he can carry over that same aggressive play from college to Sunday.
How come nobody's at the podium? That's because both teams are right now working on a trade.
Falcons pick is in. Adam, give us the rundown.
To put it simply, he had a bad day at the Combine. Since then, he's been under intense scrutiny. Matt Miller told me he's never seen a receiver drop so many passes with no one else around. He probably would have been better off skipping the Combine. Working with an unfamiliar quarterback seemed to have had an impact on his poor performance. The team must see something it likes or thinks it can work on improving. At this point, I'm not sure if he can stick on the roster. He needs to become more dependable of a target for that to happen.
The Cowboys going out on a limb with Ajala. Adam, support that limb.
I've been told by a number of scouts that he has all the qualities you want to see in any NFL defensive back, and they usually follow that by referencing his pro day. The kid was a blur on the field, running just under a 4.5 in the 40. When it came to drills, he didn't disappoint either. His combination of speed, footwork, fluid hips, and pure instinct made a lot of scouts draw comparisons to a few shutdown corners currently in the NFL. That's a pretty flattering compliment. Now that he's been drafted, it's only a matter of time before we see if that comparison is an accurate one.
Schuler's pick's been made. Let's go to Adam Schefter to hear more about the player.
In a surprise move during the season, he left the team, citing personal reasons for the decision. From some of the reports I've heard, it sounds like he had some family issues that he really wanted to settle before the draft. His coach and teammates didn't hold any ill will against him and actually seemed supportive in his decision. He mentioned to several teams during the Combine interviews that he felt a burden lifted off his shoulders.
All right, let's go to Adam Schefter, who's got more on this pick.
It's unfortunate to see a player recovering from an injury only to have it happen again, especially in an exhibition game. It was one of the rare times I've seen a brutal injury at the annual All-Star game between future NFL players. He took a hit that tore his ACL a second time in less than a year. That kind of injury history might scare away most teams, but it didn't scare away this team from drafting him. I've been told by his agent he's still recovering from the surgery, but he should be ready to play for training camp.
The Saints are now on the clock. The Patriots are now on the clock.
They just picked up McKnight. Adam, what can you tell us?
Midseason struggles look to have doomed his draft prospects as he put up lackluster numbers in several consecutive games. As a result of his consistent poor play, several scouts decided not to show up for his pro day. When word of this reached draft experts like Matt Miller, he began free-falling in several influential mock drafts. Scouts that decided to attend his pro day were treated to a show of sheer athleticism. They saw a player that looked like he had a chip on his shoulder, one scout even telling me that seeing the negative media attention may have been the wake-up call he needed to take his game to the next level. He now will have the opportunity to prove his doubters wrong in the NFL, but a part of me wonders whether or not he'll play with the same passion and intensity once the doubters are silenced.
The Cardinals are now on the clock.
Our very own Adam Schefter has more to say about this pick.
Typically, when a player has a bad day at the combine, he uses his pro day to redeem himself. Unfortunately for this running back, all he was able to do was confirm what he did back at Indy. He's not the fastest, and he's definitely not the strongest, but what hurt his stock the most was his inability to show improvement between the combine and his pro day. His success in college might be the only reason he went this high. Let's see if he can carry that success over to the NFL.
The Ravens are now on the clock. The Eagles are now on the clock. The Broncos are now on the clock. The Panthers are now on the clock. The Texans are now on the clock. The Saints are now on the clock.
Saints have just made Fuller their guy. Let's go to Adam for more.
He's the type of offensive lineman that doesn't get mentioned often.
The Dolphins pick is in. Let's go to Adam with more on Hannah.
A high-flying, hard-hitting defensive back, he was the subject of much criticism earlier this year after being unable to put together consistent performances week to week. Consistency doesn't even do the roller coaster of emotions he went through justice. A better description may have been puzzling. After turning in an exceptional performance in week 1 with 2 picks, he was downright terrible in week 2, being burned for 3 touchdowns. Week 3 saw him force a fumble and return it for a touchdown, and then week 4 saw him get beat on plays that led to critical scores and a close loss. The pendulum continued to swing both ways throughout the entire year, prompting one scout I spoke with to nickname him the Enigma. This pick could have a huge upside, providing this coaching staff has the patience for him to develop into a much more consistent player.
The Ravens are now on the clock. All right, now that the pick's in, let's go to Adam. Adam, what can you tell us about this guy?
It's always great to see a running back win the Heisman. It's like a sign that the old ways of ground and pound haven't completely vanished. He was a pure workhorse for the team and accounted for well over 60% of its total offensive production. Remove him from the team, and I strongly believe it wouldn't have finished at the top of its conference. And now he has the chance to carry the ball at the next level, and this team just got a gem of a player. We'll see if he becomes its primary ball carrier right from the start, or if it incorporates him into a running back by committee system.
The Bills have just made Gabbert their newest player.
An internet darling, here's a guy who's become one of the most popular players in this year's draft.
Adam, what can you tell us about that last pick?
This is a player that draft experts really didn't start talking about until the tail end of the season. The biggest topic of discussion was where the sudden change in production came from. I talked to his college position coach, and he told me that a nagging injury.
They just picked up Walls, Adam. What's the latest on him?
As aggressive as a defensive lineman as you will find, here's a guy who plays with reckless abandon in his quest to bring down an opposing quarterback. Many I talked to point to this mentality as the reason why he ended up with a ruptured pectoral muscle and cracked sternum, ending his college career. A tendo Achilles allograft reconstruction was needed to repair the pectoral and graft it back into place. Procedure typically takes 12 to 18 months to return from, yet he was able to achieve medical clearance in just 7. What remains to be seen, however, is if his all-out style of play will have changed at all, knowing that an aggravation of the injury likely means an end to his career. Fans of the team should not be surprised if we see a much more passive version of him come this fall. The special shoulder pads he'll need to wear to protect the area could slow him down by themselves.
The Titans have just picked up Addison. Adam, what can you tell us about him?
In what will go down as one of the most talked about moments of this year's draft, he announced his intentions to move from defensive back to the offensive side of the ball as a wide receiver. An above-average defender in college, this move shocked draft insiders and scouts alike. Sources close to the situation have told me the reason for the switch